What if the way you see yourself, the way you show up in relationships, and the way you respond to conflict has less to do with who you are and everything to do with a wound you have been carrying since childhood? A wound that was never yours to carry in the first place. It is called the father wound, and it is one of the most widespread, most misunderstood, and most underestimated sources of pain in adult life. Over the next several minutes, we are going to walk through exactly what the father wound is, where it comes from, and the 6 signs that you may be carrying one, because awareness is always where healing begins. The father wound is the emotional pain that gets passed down from our fathers, often through generations. And before we go any further, something important needs to be said. This is not about blaming fathers. Most fathers who caused pain were themselves carrying wounds they never healed. Wounds from their own fathers, from a society that told them emotions were weakness, from a world that conditioned them to provide and protect, but never to feel, never to connect, never to be emotionally present. Our fathers were shaped by forces larger than themselves, and many of them passed on what they received, not out of malice, but out of limitation. But here is what we now understand through research and attachment theory. Our sense of self, who we believe ourselves to be, how we show up in the world, how we relate to others, is formed through our earliest relationships. And the relationship with our father is one of the most foundational of all. When that relationship carries pain, absence, criticism, or emotional unavailability, the wound it creates does not stay in childhood. It travels with us into our adult relationships, our self-worth, our nervous system, and our deepest beliefs about whether we are lovable, worthy, and safe. The first sign is one that many people overlook, because from the outside, everything looked fine. He provided. There was food on the table, a roof over your head, clothes on your back. By every measurable standard, he showed up. But emotionally, he was absent. He did not ask how you were feeling. He did not create space for your inner world. He did not know how to connect with you beyond the surface, and perhaps he never tried. This is incredibly common, and it is important to understand why. Men in many societies are conditioned from boyhood to suppress emotion. They are told that feelings are weakness, that their job is to provide, not to feel. So they shut down their emotional world, and as a result, they cannot access it for their children either. But a child does not understand that context. A child only experiences the absence. And that absence of emotional attunement, of being truly seen and known by their father, leaves a mark. If you grew up feeling like your father was physically present but emotionally unreachable, that is a sign of the father wound. The second sign is when emotional expression was not just absent, it was actively discouraged or punished. Maybe you were told you were too sensitive, too dramatic, too much. Maybe when you cried, you were told to stop. Maybe when you expressed fear or sadness or anger, you were dismissed, mocked, or punished for it. Over time, when this happens consistently, a child learns a very specific lesson. It is not safe to feel. It is not safe to express. The way to stay safe is to go inward, to suppress, to hide, to perform okayness even when everything inside is not okay. And that lesson does not stay in childhood. It becomes a blueprint. As an adult, you may find yourself invalidating your own emotions, dismissing your own pain before anyone else can. You may become overwhelmed by feelings you do not know how to process because you were never taught how. You may struggle to be emotionally present for others because you were never shown what that looks like. If your emotional world was regularly dismissed or punished growing up, that is a sign of the father wound. The third sign is one that does not always get connected to the father wound, but its impact runs deep. This is when a father regularly commented on, criticized, or compared physical bodies. Your body, other family members' bodies, people's weight, appearance, how they looked, what they ate. These comments, even when not directed at you specifically, send a powerful subconscious message, Worth is tied to appearance. The body is something to be evaluated, judged, and measured. And when that message comes from a parent figure, someone whose approval you are wired to seek, it shapes your relationship with your own body in profound ways. It can lead to body shame, to disordered eating, to a persistent sense that your physical self is never quite right, never quite enough, to spending years trying to earn worth through appearance rather than simply inhabiting your body with safety and ease. If your father regularly judged or compared bodies, that is a sign of the father wound. The fourth sign is the absence of something every child fundamentally needs: to be told they are good and to be shown they are loved. Physical affection, being held, hugged, comforted, is not optional for healthy development. It is how children learn that they are safe, that they are valued, that the world is a place where comfort is available. Verbal affirmation, being told you did well, that you matter, that your father is proud of you, is how children begin to construct a sense of self-worth. When both of these are absent, the child is left to fill in the blank themselves. And the story they almost always write is, "I am not enough. I am not worthy. There is something wrong with me." That core belief, formed in childhood, in the absence of a father's affection, tends to drive behavior for decades. It shows up as people-pleasing, as perfectionism, as an exhausting need to prove yourself, as a hunger for external validation that never quite satisfies. Or it shows up as rebellion, acting out, pushing away, performing indifference, because if you do not care about the approval, it cannot hurt you when it does not come. If your father withheld affection and praise, that is a sign of the father wound. The fifth sign is one that requires compassion, because it often comes from a place of genuine struggle. An under-resourced father is one who was so consumed by his own survival, financially, emotionally, or both, that he had nothing left to give. Maybe he could not hold down a job. Maybe money was a constant source of stress and instability. Maybe he made money but spent it destructively. Gambling, substances, impulsive decisions that kept the family in a state of financial anxiety. Or maybe the under-resourcing was emotional. He was so overwhelmed by his own unprocessed pain, his own unmet needs, his own survival, that he simply had no capacity to be present for his children. When a father is in survival mode, his entire system is oriented toward getting through the day. There is no surplus for emotional attunement, no bandwidth for connection. The child in that environment grows up in a state of low-grade anxiety, never quite feeling secure, always sensing the instability beneath the surface, learning to manage their own needs quietly so as not to add to the pressure. If your father was chronically under-resourced and emotionally unavailable as a result, that is a sign of the father wound. The sixth sign is the one that leaves perhaps the most visible mark on the nervous system. A father who regularly had rage spirals, explosive anger, screaming, throwing things, physical aggression or violence, creates a very specific kind of wound. It is the wound of hypervigilance. When a child grows up never knowing which version of their father is going to walk through the door, when the home is a place of unpredictable threat rather than consistent safety, the nervous system adapts. It goes on permanent alert. It learns to scan constantly for danger signals. It learns to read the room, to manage moods, to stay small and invisible to avoid triggering the explosion. That hypervigilance does not switch off when you leave home. It travels with you into your adult relationships, where you may find yourself walking on eggshells with partners who have never given you a reason to. Into your body, which stays braced for impact even when there is no impact coming. Into your nervous system, which has been trained to treat the world as unsafe. If your father's anger was unpredictable and explosive, that is a sign of the father wound. If you recognized yourself in any of these signs, if something landed, something resonated, something felt uncomfortably familiar, that recognition is not something to be ashamed of. It is the beginning of something. Because the father wound, as deep as it runs, is not permanent. It is not your identity. It is not your destiny. It is a wound, and wounds, when they are seen clearly and tended to with care, can heal. The relationship you had with your father shaped you, but it does not have to define you. The beliefs you formed in childhood about your worth, your safety, and your lovability, those can be examined, challenged, and rewritten. That is the work, and it is some of the most important work a person can do. The next step is going deep on how to actually heal the father wound, the specific practices, the inner work, and what real recovery looks like. If this resonated, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and drop a comment sharing which sign landed most for you. This conversation is just getting started.